Learn how to use a pattern overlay to dress up your projects. Pattern overlays can be used to dress up many things. Here's one of 3 ways we're going to look at in this video. I'm filming this video in advanced mode of Photoshop Elements, but the instructions are exactly the same for Photoshop except where noted. Here's a scrapbook page I've mostly finished. I love how the green in the photos is brought out by the green paper on my page, but I do feel like the solid green paper could use a little something to dress it up. In the Layers panel, I'm going to make sure to activate one of the layers with the green solid paper clipped to it. So I'll click on this layer to activate it. Then in the downloads for this lesson, I've included a free pattern overlay file. It's called PP Horizontal Lines Pattern Overlay jj.png. It's one of the pattern overlay files you can find in my Practical Patterns pack that's available in Marketplace. I'm going to open that file now, then I'm going to get the Move tool. And then on the document, I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click and drag the pattern overlay onto the working document. Now, as a note, holding down the Shift key while adding something to a document ensures that the item will land in the center of the document. Now in the menu bar, I'm going to choose Layer, Create Clipping Mask. And since this overlay is pure black, right now it's a bit harsh on this page that has a lot of soft colors. So let's tone it down a bit. I'll press the letter D to reset the color chips to the default of black over white, then press the letter X to switch the foreground color chip to white. Then press Shift Alt Backspace in Windows or Shift Option Delete on a Mac to fill the pixels of this layer with the foreground color, which is white. So let's change the blend mode of this layer to soft light, and let's lower the opacity of this layer to about 70%. And there, that looks perfect. It gives this green paper kind of like a two-tone green color, and I just love how it adds a little bit of visual interest without being overwhelming or distracting away from the photos. And since I like how this looks so much, I want to duplicate this overlay layer so that I can put it on top of my other solid green paper layers. To do that, press Ctrl J in Windows or Command J on a Mac, and then in the Layers panel, move the overlay layer so that it's above the next solid paper layer. Then, in the menu bar, choose Layer, Create Clipping Mask. And I gotta do that one more time for the last layer that is solid green, right there. I just love how this overlay helped make my page feel a little more designer and finished and put together. In this next example, I have a page that is basically complete. I could totally leave it as it is and it would be a super cute page. However, it would also be a lot of fun if I used that same pattern overlay to dress up these frames. So I've already added the overlay to this document and I've placed it above my purple and pink papers that are clipped to the frames that I'm using. So I'm going to work with this purple frame first. Let me reveal that. And as you can see, since I have horizontal lines here, but my frame is tilted, the first thing I need to do is transform the horizontal lines of this overlay to match the angle of the frame. So I'm going to press Ctrl T in Windows or Command T on a Mac to get the transform options. And then I'll move my mouse outside of a corner handle until I see the double-sided curved arrow. And then I'll just click and drag until the lines look to match the line of the frame. And then once it's done, I'll click the check mark to commit. That looks a lot better. Now again, this overlay is pure black and it's really harsh on all of these pretty soft colors. So the first thing I'm going to do is just try reducing the opacity. I'm going to go down to something really low, like maybe 20%, and see what that looks like. And I actually really love it. It kind of gives like a two-tone purple look here. And that's all I was wanting, was just to add a little bit of visual interest and a variation in color. And that looks really good. So now let's go to the pink frame. And black again is way too harsh. So I'm going to recolor this to white because the pink frame is a lot lighter than the purple frame. And I don't think even at like 10% opacity, I think it's still going to be just like a little too dark and it's a little too like muddy in color for me. And that's not the look I want. So I'm going to go back up to 100% for a second. My foreground color chip is still white. So I'll press that same keyboard shortcut of Shift Alt Backspace in Windows or Shift Option Delete on a Mac to fill the pixels in the layer with white. Now I'm going to change the blend mode of this layer to soft light. And I don't need to change the opacity at all. It just gives me the perfect like pink on pink tones, just like the purple on purple tones, and I'm really happy with how that looks. I love how this overlay dressed up my frames and made them just a bit more interesting. It's fun to think about all the options you have with just one overlay. And speaking of that, I've got one more example for you. So here I have a card that I've put together. Again, this card is totally cute as is, but I wanted to use the same overlay to see if I can add some visual interest to my flower element right here. So I've already recolored the overlay layer to white, as we've already done, and I've also already clipped it to the flower layer. And I've also resized the overlay to be smaller to better fit the size of my card document. Now, let's change the blend mode of this layer to soft light. And let's change the opacity of this layer to 50%. And I just love how this dresses up my flower by adding some subtle stripes to it. So that was 3 simple ways to use a pattern overlay to dress up your projects. There are so many more options than these 3, and I hope you have fun being creative while you explore them. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and consider subscribing to our channel. This has been Jennifer Jers with Digital Scrapper. We help you get your stories told.